There is a reason powerful people speak less. It is not because they have nothing to say. It is because they understand something most people never learn. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. Not every emotion deserves a reaction. And not every battle deserves your energy. But today's world trains people to fear silence. The moment silence appears, people rush to fill it with noise, with opinions, with arguments, with constant talking, with endless scrolling, with distractions. Why? Because silence forces people to face themselves, and many people are uncomfortable with what they find. So instead of mastering silence, they escape from it. But here is the truth. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. A person who cannot stay silent is often controlled by emotions, controlled by ego, controlled by insecurity, controlled by the need to prove something. But a person who masters silence masters themselves. No? Welcome to Habit Hustle, and today we are going to explore why silence makes you powerful. In a world addicted to noise, because once you understand the true power of silence, you stop wasting energy trying to impress people. You stop reacting emotionally to everything. You stop exposing your every thought to the world. And slowly, you become mentally untouchable. Silence reveals emotional strength. Weak minds react instantly. They react to criticism. They react to insults. They react to opinions. They react to every small inconvenience. Why? Because emotionally weak people feel the need to defend themselves constantly. They believe every attack requires a response. Every disagreement requires an argument. Every disrespect requires revenge. But emotionally strong people understand something deeper. Not reacting is often more powerful than reacting. Because silence confuses people, especially those trying to control your emotions. Think about it carefully. When someone insults you, they often expect anger. When someone provokes you, they expect emotional chaos. But when you remain calm, you take away their power, because now they cannot control your state of mind. And that is true strength. Most people think power is loud, but real power is usually quiet. The lion does not need to announce itself every second. The ocean does not scream to prove its depth. And truly confident people do not constantly seek attention. Only insecurity feels the need to constantly perform. Silence, on the other hand, creates presence. It creates mystery, control, discipline. And discipline is what separates powerful people from emotional prisoners. Imagine two people during conflict. One person is shouting, over-explaining, trying desperately to win. The other remains calm, composed, and silent. Who appears stronger? Almost always the calm one. Because composure signals control, and people naturally respect those who control themselves under pressure. This is why silence is dangerous to emotional manipulators, because manipulators survive through reactions. They provoke, they attack, they create drama, and the moment you react emotionally, they gain influence over you. But silence breaks their control. Your silence says, "You no longer control my emotions." That sentence terrifies insecure people, because many people do not seek peace, they seek reactions. And once you stop reacting, their power disappears. Silence protects your energy. Most people are mentally exhausted not because life is impossible, but because they waste energy everywhere. Arguing online, explaining themselves constantly, defending every decision, responding to every criticism, entering pointless drama. And slowly, their mind becomes crowded with noise. But silence protects mental clarity. It protects focus. It protects peace. It protects emotional stability. Every unnecessary argument steals energy from your goals. Every emotional reaction drains your mind. And many people destroy their own peace trying to prove themselves to people who were never willing to understand them anyway. One of the greatest lessons in life is realizing this. You do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. Read that again. Because some battles are designed only to distract you. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every misunderstanding deserves explanation. Not every opinion deserves emotional investment. Wise people understand where their energy should go. Toward growth, toward discipline, toward purpose, not endless emotional chaos. And silence becomes a shield against negativity, against gossip, against manipulation, against unnecessary conflict. The truth is, many people speak too much because they fear being overlooked, so they over-explain, overshare, overreact, trying desperately to maintain attention. But silence teaches something powerful. Your value does not decrease because you become quieter. In fact, people often respect you more because silence creates weight behind your words. When someone talks constantly, their words lose impact. But when someone speaks carefully and intentionally, people listen because silence creates importance. This is why disciplined leaders often speak slowly and minimally. Every sentence carries purpose. Every word carries control. Meanwhile, emotionally impulsive people speak endlessly, then regret half of what they said later. Silence prevents many problems before they begin. Silence makes you harder to manipulate. People can only use the information you give them. Think about that deeply. The more emotionally reactive you are, the easier you become to control. People learn your triggers, your insecurities, your weaknesses, and many people will use them against you. But silence creates protection, not secrecy, protection. There is a difference. A wise person does not reveal every plan, every emotion, every weakness, every intention, because not everyone celebrating you is loyal to you. Some people study you only to compete with you. Some listen only to judge you. Some ask questions only to use your answers later. This is why silence is powerful. It creates boundaries. And boundaries are necessary in a world where not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Notice something interesting. The strongest people in life are often the hardest to read. Not because they are fake, but because they are disciplined. They think before speaking, observe before reacting, listen more than they talk. Meanwhile, weak people expose everything immediately. Every emotion, every frustration, every insecurity. And later they wonder why people take advantage of them. Silence gives you time to think. And thinking prevents emotional mistakes. Many lives are destroyed not by intelligence, but by impulsive speech. One angry sentence can destroy relationships. One emotional reaction can ruin opportunities. One moment of uncontrolled emotion can create years of regret. But silence creates space between emotion and action. And inside that space, wisdom appears. That is why silence is not empty. Silence is awareness. Silence builds inner confidence. People who constantly seek validation usually talk too much, not because they are expressive, but because they are searching for approval. They constantly explain themselves, constantly seek reassurance, constantly try to prove their worth. Why? Because internally they do not fully believe in themselves. Confident people are different. They do not feel the need to announce everything. They work quietly, move quietly, build quietly, and then, one day, their results speak for them. That is real confidence. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. Often, the loudest person is simply the most insecure. True confidence is calm. It does not beg for attention. It does not chase validation. It does not force itself into every conversation. It remains grounded, and silence strengthens that grounded nature. Because when you spend time in silence, you begin hearing your own thoughts clearly. You begin understanding yourself, your fears, your habits, your weaknesses, your goals. And self-awareness is the foundation of power. Most people are disconnected from themselves because they are constantly distracted. Noise everywhere, entertainment everywhere, opinions everywhere, but silence reconnects you to your own mind. And once a person becomes comfortable alone with their thoughts, they become dangerous in the best possible way, because now they no longer need constant external validation to feel whole. They develop inner stability, and inner stability cannot be easily shaken by criticism, rejection, or chaos. Most people underestimate silence because they confuse it with weakness. They assume the quiet person has nothing to offer, nothing to say, nothing to contribute. But life teaches a different lesson. The most dangerous minds are often the calmest. The most disciplined people are often the quietest. And the people who truly understand power rarely feel the need to constantly prove it. Because real power does not scream for attention. It carries itself differently, quietly, calmly, precisely. Welcome back to Habit Hustle, and in this final part we are going deeper into why silence transforms your influence, your mindset, and your entire presence. Because once you learn to master silence, people begin seeing you differently. But more importantly, you begin seeing yourself differently too. Silence creates presence. There is something magnetic about people who do not desperately seek attention. They walk into a room calmly. They observe more than they speak. They remain emotionally composed. And naturally, people notice them. Why? Because silence creates presence. Most people today are constantly trying to be seen, talking endlessly, posting constantly, interrupting conversations, forcing opinions into every moment. But desperate attention-seeking weakens presence. It signals insecurity. Silence does the opposite. Silence communicates, "I do not need to fight for attention." And that energy changes how people perceive you. Think about conversations carefully. The person constantly over-explaining usually appears nervous, but the person who speaks carefully, slowly, and only when necessary, appears confident. Because restraint signals self-control, and self-control is rare. This is why mysterious people often attract attention naturally. Not because they are pretending to be mysterious, but because they do not reveal everything immediately. They understand that constant exposure weakens value. In today's world, people expose their entire lives online. Every thought, every emotion, every problem, every achievement, and eventually, nothing feels meaningful anymore. But silence preserves depth. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your inner world. Some things should remain private, protected, sacred, and people who understand this often carry a stronger presence than those constantly demanding attention, because mystery creates curiosity, and curiosity creates influence. Silence improves decision-making. One of the greatest dangers in life is emotional decision-making. Most people ruin opportunities because they react too quickly. They speak in anger, act in frustration, respond impulsively, and later, regret follows. Silence interrupts impulsiveness. It creates space between emotion and action, and that small space changes everything. Imagine receiving criticism. An emotional person reacts immediately, defends themselves, starts arguing. But a disciplined person pauses, and in that silence they think clearly. Is this criticism useful? Does this deserve my energy? Will reacting improve anything? That pause is wisdom. Most people never develop it, because modern life trains people to react instantly. Instant replies, instant opinions, instant emotional responses. But wisdom requires slowness, silence forces reflection, and reflection improves judgment. Many successful people are not successful because they are smarter than everyone else. They are successful because they think before acting. They do not allow emotions to control decisions. And silence strengthens this ability, because silence sharpens observation. When you speak less, you notice more. You notice people's behavior, their intentions, their patterns, their inconsistencies. Meanwhile, people who constantly talk often miss everything happening around them. The quiet observer usually understands the room better than the loudest speaker, because observation creates awareness, and awareness creates advantage. Silence exposes truth. Here is something uncomfortable most people never realize. When you stop talking, people reveal themselves. Silence makes others uncomfortable. And uncomfortable people often expose their true character. Some begin gossiping. Some begin over-explaining. Some begin projecting insecurities. Some begin filling the silence nervously. And suddenly you see them clearly. Silence is powerful because it removes distraction. It allows you to study people deeply. That is why wise people listen more than they speak. Because every person reveals themselves eventually through words, emotions, and behavior. But if you are always talking, you never notice. This is especially important in relationships. Many people ignore red flags because they are too busy trying to be liked, too busy talking, too busy proving themselves. But silence allows observation, and observation protects you from manipulation. Pay attention to how people behave when you stop chasing them. When you stop texting first, when you stop overgiving, when you stop forcing conversations. Silence reveals priorities. Some people disappear completely once they stop receiving attention from you. And painful as that may feel, it is valuable information. Because silence exposes who truly values your presence and who only values your attention. That truth saves years of emotional suffering. Silence strengthens discipline. Discipline is not only physical, it is verbal too. Many people can control actions temporarily, but cannot control their mouth. They gossip constantly, complain constantly, react emotionally constantly, and every unnecessary word weakens mental discipline, because discipline means control. Control over impulses, control over emotions, control over reactions. Silence trains all three. Every time you resist the urge to react emotionally, you become stronger. Every time you avoid unnecessary drama, you protect your peace. Every time you remain calm while others lose control, you build emotional superiority. This is why silence is deeply connected to maturity. Children react instantly. Mature people pause, and that pause changes outcomes. A disciplined mind understands that not every emotion deserves expression. Sometimes silence is wiser than explanation. Sometimes silence is stronger than revenge. Sometimes silence protects your dignity better than winning an argument ever could. And one of the most powerful skills in life is learning this. You do not need to prove yourself to everyone. Many battles are distractions disguised as importance. The mature mind learns where energy belongs. Not in ego wars, not in online arguments, not in endless drama, but in building a meaningful life quietly. And often, the person silently improving themselves will eventually surpass the people loudly talking about success, because results speak louder than words ever will. Final message. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is mastery. It is emotional control, mental clarity, inner confidence, observation, discipline, and in a world addicted to noise, silence becomes a superpower. But mastering silence does not mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means becoming intentional, speaking with purpose, reacting with wisdom, protecting your peace, controlling your emotions instead of allowing them to control you. Because once you stop reacting to everything, life changes. You think clearer, move smarter, feel calmer, and suffer less emotional chaos. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control the world around them, but powerful people focus on controlling themselves. That is the real secret. And silence is where that power begins. This is Habit Hustle. And remember, the quieter your mind becomes, the stronger you become.